You know that feeling when everything just clicks? Your mind is sharp, your mood is steady, your body feels like it's firing on all cylinders. That's not luck, that's what your body is capable of every single day. Now, I've looked into a lot of fish oil supplements, and honestly, most of them are mystery sourced, overprocessed, blasted with heat, and packed with synthetic add-ins. But this one is different. Omega-3 Rejuvenate from Big Bold Health starts with wild Alaskan salmon and cod, sustainably caught from some of the cleanest waters on the planet, and then it's processed at low temperatures to preserve what actually matters. We're talking about real omega-3s, naturally occurring vitamins A and D, and pro-resolving mediators, or PRMs, that help your body balance its own immune response. What does that mean for you? Clearer thinking, more stable mood, and real nature-based support for your heart and immune system. No shortcuts, no synthetic nonsense. And it was developed by Dr. Jeffrey Bland, a true pioneer in the world of complementary health. If you want to feel the difference, go to bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman. That's bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman and use code Hoffman for 20% off site-wide. Once you feel it, you'll know. Welcome back to today's Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. Our guest is the author of The Essence of Invention, Medicine and the Joy of Creativity. It's a great read because it talks about what are some of the ingredients that encourage innovation in medicine, something we need much more of because medicine, unfortunately, is beset with bureaucracy and conformity these days. Nonetheless, medical progress continues apace, and we need to encourage it. We're talking today to a great innovator who has 176 peer-reviewed publications and also has 60 patents on new medical devices. That's not easy because patents are difficult and expensive to file, and has developed new techniques and approaches to complex spine and brain pathologies because he is an interventional neuroradiologist. Okay. So, Dr. Murphy, so you were talking in part one, and I cut you off because I wanted to give us time to discuss this in part two. Ozone therapy, something which is considered a little, kind of on the fringes of medicine. It's proposed as a treatment for infectious disease. There's something called autohemotherapy, a type of blood washing that's done with ozone. And it's considered, shall we say, kind of on the fringes of medicine. You, however, had an open mind, and because your bailiwick is the spine, felt that the application of ozone might provide a breakthrough for people with herniated discs. So this actually comes under the rubric of a company that you're involved with, which is called, let's see.
Spine Effects.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Okay. So I was at a meeting in Verona in Italy in 2004, and somebody I have tremendous respect for presented ozone, O3, being injected into a herniated disc under X-ray guidance through a very small needle. And he had follow-up in his patients, and he was able to show that the disc shrank. The disc wasn't destroyed. It just shrank, and the patient's back pain went away. So I flew home from that meeting, spent 8 hours on an airplane doodling and drawing and inventing the device that we make today. And in that isolated environment of an airplane where you get left alone, I then worked out the mechanism by which O3 could shrink the disc in Yucatan mini pigs in a FDA-approved facility with a FDA-approved pathologist, veterinary pathologist. Worked out the
and that's the way you have to work these things. So you can't immediately go back and start shooting ozone into people's spines. You have to go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to get FDA approval.
You've got to understand the mechanism of action. How does this thing work? Does it work? Is it real? And then you do structured, carefully controlled clinical trials. So as a first step, we did a trial in Naples in Italy where we measured the amount of ozone before and after injection into the patient to make sure that what was said was happening was really happening. And then we did 3 prospective randomized clinical trials, the last being against open surgery, and were able to treat contained herniated discs, and 72% of people will avoid surgery.
Wow.
So it's great. Now we're just about to submit to the FDA and do what's called a pre-sub meeting. We're at the European regulatory body at the moment for CE approval, and we're having conversations with Health Canada at the moment as well too. It's taken a long time because I had to work out the mechanism of action, the way to do this safely, the way to generate ozone reproducibly, how to reduce the number of steps in the procedure to make this as simple and reliable as possible. We got funding. We started a company. We employ about 8 people. And we speak every day, work away step by step on this.
So this is a process that's very challenging. First of all, you have to discover the principle, and then you have to work out the details. That's in and of itself a monumental feat. But then you have to go through a regulatory process that can be very challenging and sometimes quite capricious. At the same time, it costs money. You have to market your idea or your invention and attract investors, seed money, private equity. And so does this process ultimately discourage the development of breakthrough techniques like the one you envision?
It's very difficult. It's very stressful. I was fortunate that some of my earlier devices were picked up very rapidly and have been used now probably 2 million times. They're needles that are used in the spine for biopsies. I took money from that and invested in this. And then we got some larger investors recently over the last 3 years who've been wonderful and let us progress more quickly. I tend to work with the same people all the time, same 8, 9, 10 people. We work together repeatedly on different projects. It's always stressful. You will wake up at 2 a.m. having nightmares that you failed again.
People sometimes ask me, they say, well, you have a great purview over what's the new developments in medicine. Do you invest in new companies because you should be able to kind of, steal the march on some new incredible bonanza of medical innovation? And what I say is, no, I never invest in medical startups because you never know. The most plausible ideas, the most plausible medication breakthroughs, cancer cures, often crash and burn, sometimes on their own merit because they don't cut the mustard, and sometimes because of a very capricious approval, circuitous environment.
And the people, right? You need the right people.
Yeah.
The people are critical. But you can have good fortune, like a strategic publication and a strategic journal.
And there's some gamesmanship involved in that too, right?
The strategy, I wouldn't say gamesmanship.
Okay.
Yeah. There is strategy involved in that. There are faith-based elements in medicine. You have to use language that people already accept if you want them to accept your ideas. It's like a religion. And if you start espousing ayahuasca to people who are Presbyterian, they're going to say no. But if you propose,
with a few exceptions, like Martin Luther, with nailing the the new
but like you got to speak language in the way that people accept.
Yep.
And so that's a key piece. Having good, rock solid scientific data, mechanism of action, clinical trials is essential. Having patient investors is essential. And then there's timing, over which we have no control. And timing is probably the number one factor that is beyond our control. If your podcast had been developed 20 years ago before the internet, before Spotify, you wouldn't be here today. Yet you would be as brilliant as you are, but the medium wasn't there to help your message reach people. So timing is essential in all of these things. For me, this approach with O3 and the disc is about changing the experience of the patient who gets a disc herniation and has too much disc, then getting that disc resected, and then ultimately goes on to too little disc.
Right. It's too not nuanced enough. It's too much of an all or nothing procedure.
Yeah. It's a 28 billion a year business for people like Stryker and Medtronic to resect your disc herniation when you've got a disc herniation, because they know you will need a fusion in 10, 15 years time, and they want to own your spine. So I want to do just enough to shrink it, reduce the pressure, and then in 6 or 12 months, augment the disc with some stem cells or glycosamine glycans and interrupt that cycle of inevitable fusion. Keep people healthy. If you can mimic nature, biomimicry, and this is probably your language more than mine, then we're doing the right things, and the human intervertebral body disc represents 5 billion years of field testing. It's a brilliant structure. The pressure in it is 32 psi, which would be the pressure in the front wheels, the tires of your car. It's under tremendous pressure, yet it fails.
That's the price we pay for walking upright and freeing our hands.
Yes, and also for doing stupid things like lifting heavy weights and doing ridiculous workout programs and boot camps and things where we place ourselves under too much stress.
Right.
Now, for some people, of course, their only asset is their physical labor. And they're working hard on building sites and in factories and lifting huge weights, and they will get disc herniations. But then they become unemployable as a result.
And on disability and burden to society. Yeah.
In the military, 14% of people get disc herniations from leaping out of trucks and helicopters with huge backpacks on. So those are the kind of people I want to treat.
Good stuff. I learned something from your book, which is that in your field, interventional radiologists, so let's explain what that is. Interventional radiologists do procedures where they put guide wires and they sometimes resect things through little, entry pathways into the body under guidance, usually, previously X-ray guidance or CT guidance, so you can see where you're going. Am I basically summarizing it? Okay, so, but that they get too much radiation. And you yourself confess that you developed a cataract in one eye, and you suspect that may have been due to exposure to inappropriate amounts of radiation through the eye that you use to visualize some of these procedures. And that's a thing. And that actually some of the pioneers in this field developed cancers and even died from exposure. And this is not, we're not talking about the beginning of the 1900s, like Marie Curie.
No.
We're talking in more recent times.
We're talking about folks who work in the city of New York with you, like Ted Dietrich, right? A great vascular surgeon who died of left frontal glioma. My cataract is in my left eye because it's beside the X-ray tube, which is to my left.
Wow.
So because we're doing so many procedures, so many coronary stents, so many carotid stents, so many biopsies and angiosuites, like in our hospital, we'll do about 43,000 image-guided procedures this year at University Health Network, Toronto. And that's combining cardiology with interventional radiology, interventional neuroradiology. Most people go to the OR and have a cardiac bypass or an aortic stent for an aortic aneurysm. Now we treat them. So they come to us. So we stand in a field of radiation for 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day, every day of the week, wearing lead, admittedly, 40 pounds of lead, but our arms are
like a lead protective vest or something like that?
And it weighs a ton.
But you can't put a lead helmet on, and it's not going to protect you. You need your eyes to do your work.
Yes. Our arms and our legs get radiation, and our hands do. So our left arm, left leg gets more radiation than our right arm, right leg. And over time, it's been shown that the incidence of left-sided brain tumors, left-sided cataracts, myeloma, leukemia, lymphoma, left-sided breast cancer are higher in us than other radiologists who don't do procedures.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
it's an occupational health issue.
okay, folks, at this point, let's pause and allow one of our sponsors an opportunity to share an important message with you. So listen up. Here goes.
Are you ready to experience the future of digestive wellness with Dr. Ohhira's new and revolutionary postbiotic fermented food concentrate? Capsule-free and in individual sachet packets that harness the power of 5 years of fermentation and over 500 concentrated bioactive postbiotics. Dr. Ohhira's postbiotic fermented food concentrate is a nutrient-dense paste designed to supercharge your digestive health, aid in nutrient absorption, and support whole body immune wellness. Each sachet packet delivers a potent blend of fermented paste and prebiotics which serve as fuel for your body's own unique gut microbiome. This concentrate supports your entire digestive tract, does not need refrigeration, non-GMO, dairy, and gluten-free. Dr. Ohhira's postbiotic fermented food concentrate. It is the ultimate embodiment of traditional Japanese fermented craftsmanship, designed for those who seek the highest concentration of nature's restorative power in every serving. Ask your natural products retailer for it today or online at essentialformulas.com.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting our sponsors. They are what make intelligent medicine a continuing free resource to you. And now back to today's guest, Dr. Kieran Murphy. So you mentioned before we jumped onto this podcast that we shared our interest in nutritional supplementation, and among the innovations you've come up with is a potential shield against this hazard. Is this something that you want to share with us?
Yeah. So what happened was I was concerned by the amount of DNA damage, the amount of X-ray exposure that we get occupationally. I came home from the hospital and my wonderful mother-in-law had just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had a list of medications not to take prior to her radiation therapy. And they were all antioxidants.
Right. Right. Bingo. Yeah.
You know this, right?
Yeah.
So if oral antioxidants you take over the counter can interfere with gray of radiation, which is about 1,000 times more radiation than you would get from a chest X-ray, then surely when you get the chest X-ray, it must protect you, right? That was the moment of insight. Mm-hmm. So I looked at this list and they're all antioxidants. I went, oh shit. Sorry for swearing, but it was an oh shit moment.
Yeah.
And I went with my son and our dog Cora to go for a walk, and Cora met another dog. We got talking to the other dog. He asked me what I did. I told him what I was noodling on. And he said, hey, I make antioxidants.
Oh, there you go.
So this is completely
serendipity there, right?
Two of them, right? Two random moments. Mm-hmm. Some quark flying through the universe. You get hit twice on the same day. Mm-hmm. And so we did some experiments using that gentleman's antioxidants. And then I made a better formulation. And we did a bunch of studies on ourselves. We drew our blood. We radiated our blood. We measured the breaks in the peripheral white blood cells. Looked at nucleus, measured H2AX.
So you didn't just do this on spec, because you could have easily said, well, here's an antibody, let's throw it out there, in theory, this might be helpful. You actually documented the efficacy of this for after radiation exposure.
Yep. Looked at how do you measure DNA damage in the nucleus? Mm-hmm. 2 tests. Well, 3. Comet assay, P53, and gamma H2AX. So we figured out how to do those tests. And
there's also deoxyguanidase, that is a measure of DNA adducts in the urine, I think it comes from. Right? Yeah.
And then, so we studied those. We worked in the lab of one of our colleagues who does radiation therapy. They try and maximize those breaks. We're trying to minimize those breaks. Mm-hmm. And then we did some pig work, and then we did prospective randomized study in patients having bone scans with technetium, and we could block 90% of their DNA damage. And then we went on to do a prospective randomized study in people doing aortic stenting, in 20 physicians, pre-medicating them, looking at DNA damage in the nucleus and mitochondria, mitochondrial DNA, nuclear DNA. And that paper is currently in submission to circulation.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'd love to see a preprint of that.
I'll get it to you. So we started a company named after my dog, Cora, called Cora Nutraceuticals. We have wonderful supportive investment from a Washington group called Irongate Capital and Global Community Trust. And last year we shipped 20,000 pills to the Ukrainian army around the Zaporizhia power plant.
Wow.
Lest the Russians blow that place up.
That is certainly a use case for that. Would this be certainly designated for medical personnel who are exposed to a lot of radiation? That's one use case.
Yes.
Another might be people who work in the nuclear industry.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because they are exposed to higher levels. Potentially people in aviation, pilots and flight attendants, because higher levels of above the atmosphere, there's less filtration of the gamma rays.
Yeah. Perfect. That's true.
Wow.
And then the military, right? First responders, people who run towards that dirty bomb.
Oh, okay.
Now there's a level of radiation you can't be protected from.
Yeah.
But
nuclear submarines certainly is another use case.
Those young men sleep on those missiles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
what a fabulous innovation. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, this is not, would you say this is for the general public? I mean, like somebody who's going for, maybe they're getting a series of CT scans. Would this make sense as a potential prophylactic prior to?
We have to be careful with the language we use because this is a nutraceutical. It's not a drug.
Yeah.
And FDA is very sensitive to the language that's used around this, right?
Right.
So you can say that DNA halo decreases breaks after X-ray exposure. And that's all I could say in terms of advertising as it
under DSHEA, the Dietary Supplement Health Education Act, where you can only make certain what are called functional claims as opposed to medical claims. Because
that's right.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So I have a relative who is a radiologist, an interventional radiologist, not an interventional neuroradiologist. He's just a general interventional radiologist. He put guide wires in people and did all the things you do. And he recently retired. And when I get together with him, I often ask, who's going to win, the surgeons or the interventional radiologists? And by that, I mean, the surgeons have traditionally gone in with scalpel, now with laparoscopes, which is, on robotic surgery. But in a way, the interventional radiologists might steal the march from the surgeons because in a less invasive way, they can get into the interstices of the body and do a lot of the things that surgeons now do. What say you?
I think there'll be both. I think there'll always be trauma. And a lot of general surgery will be more trauma oriented. For the vascular work, for the oncology work, it'll shift increasingly to image guided therapy. You give chemo and radiation before you operate to shrink the tumor and bring the size into operable limits or get people to a point where they can be a candidate for a liver transplant by injecting Y90 or other things. So care is getting more sophisticated. It's all about
organ specific. In other words, rather than administering general chemo through the vein, go right to the organ in question and deliver the therapy under guidance, because you got to know where you're going. You can't just blindly, right?
Yeah. It's all about multidisciplinary clinics, multidisciplinary conferences, having a mixture of people, a village of people focused on that one patient, and better outcomes happen. And then centralizing care in centers of excellence. One of the interesting things in Canada here is in Ontario, Cancer Care Ontario determines the standards expected, the outcomes expected for every patient. And if you have a breast cancer, it's diagnosed, you have to be seen within 2 weeks, you have to be operated on within 4 weeks, and your follow-up must be within 2 weeks of that, and your radiation therapy has to be started. And it's all predetermined. If you can't reach those criteria, your hospital will lose the right to provide that service. Now imagine if that happened in the US. Instead of having every hospital doing a thoracotomy for a lung cancer, based on outcomes, it might get reduced to hospitals with higher volumes and outcomes will be better. That's good for the patient.
So that leads us to something that you actually speculate a little bit in your book, The Essence of Invention, Medicine of the Joy of Creativity, because you have been in the belly of the beast on both sides of the border, the northern border. You currently are in a hospital, a major university center in Toronto, but you've also practiced medicine in the United States. What are the advantages, disadvantages? Because, at the center of a political debate in both countries is, what direction should medicine take towards more centralized, socialized, or more towards private, entrepreneurial medicine?
So I think one thing that's wonderful about Canadian medicine is you never see a bill. So I have 7 coronary stents and an aortic valve replacement. I have never seen a bill. And no bill was ever written. If that had happened at Hopkins, Hopkins probably wouldn't let me go because I would have been off sick too much, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't reach my billable hours. They probably would have just fired me. But I'd also probably be looking at a couple of $1 million in debt.
Yep.
Well, that's not the case. So our patients, when they have cancer, the cost of their care is not a part of their management of that horrible moment in their lives. We were just ranked as the number 3 hospital in the world last week by
Congratulations.
Best News and World Report or something like that. I don't think that's the case, but that happened. It's interesting. Our cardiology, our oncology programs are excellent. In the US, I always felt we had the best healthcare money could buy. I would treat people as they came through the ER at Hopkins, and then I would treat them emergency, but I couldn't do follow-up on them because they had no insurance. And so the one thing that's really good up here is there's no insurance company. There's only one. So everybody's insured, and we have no administrative staff. We have 5 administrators for 108 radiologists.
Right.
So all that.
So here you have to have a whole administrative apparatus in the United States to, in effect, arbitrage the reimbursement for the different procedures that are way beyond the capacity of doctors who are busily saving patients to undertake. So you have this whole hierarchy of administrators that are trying to garner the reimbursement.
Yeah, and there's kind of a purity of the conversation with the patient when there's no money involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely. It's old-fashioned. Now, the problem is access to care, right? You need to be able to access the right physician, and that's hard for Canadian patients sometimes. But at the same time, if you haven't got insurance, you've got a bigger problem of accessing care in the US. So,
do you see a problem though with elimination of moral hazard? This notion of personal responsibility, because if you engage in unhealthy lifestyle practices, look, a lot of illness is not a merit system, but some of it is, and to the extent that you take poor care of yourself, if you have a government apparatus that is going to buffer you from the consequences of your own inaction or bad actions. Is that a problem?
In general, Canadians are fairly healthy. You have to be.
It is
minus
a healthy,
28.
A health-oriented society,
right? So you're out there digging snow,
right?
Playing
hockey,
hunting. 95% of Canadians live within 100 miles of the U.S. border. The rest is like moose and bears up there. It's a hysterical country. It's beautiful. I walk the dog at night and I feel the wind come down from the Arctic. And sometimes you feel from like Amundsen crossing, you're just crossing a field 200 meters from the house. And there's something thrilling about that. I miss the afternoon storms in Baltimore that we used to get. But, the the element of the wild in Canada is palpable and real and really close, you know?
But there were elements of the U.S. healthcare system that you liked,
Yes.
and you talk about that in the book.
Yes. I love the physician-run hospital system approach, because you get physicians running hospitals, they understand the physician experience more. Think of great leaders like Dr. Charney at Mount Sinai. You know, you got a psychiatrist running a 23 hospital system. Great leader. Here we have more administrative run systems, more Excel files, more targets. And that frustrates me because it limits creativity and innovation. Whereas,
do you see a threat coming from AI? Because what happens in essence is that AI can cut the mustard in terms of diagnostic thinking. And in effect, we have physicians who rely more on systems to arrive at conclusions rather than thinking creatively or out of the box. Of course, it helps to eliminate medical error because sometimes thinking unconventionally can lead to disaster. But, you know, we've got AI that's coming into medicine big time. And in your field, radiology, I know you're not a conventional, reader of CT scans and MRIs, but you rely on them in your practice. What's going to happen to the field of radiology? Is it?
I think all the normals will be read by AI. All the normal studies will be read by AI.
Mm-hmm.
The abnormal studies will be triaged,
be highlighted
based on how abnormal they are, and the most abnormal will be read first.
Okay.
Because right now what we do is we read them in the sequence in which they were performed.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So I think AI is going to be good for us, but I'd say probably 50% of radiologists will lose their jobs.
Okay. So that cushy field, because we always thought that, you know, the smartest people in our class would go into radiology. It was a, limited number of slots, and it was a great field to be into because, well, with you, there is patient contact, but a lot of people, in medical school, less idealistic, they're into NPC, no patient contact. They just want to, read, imaging. And they thought that this was going to be a great sinecure for them. Now there are less slots available because machine learning and AI is going to take over.
I always thought the brightest people went into nephrology or ICU medicine.
So it's complicated. That is certainly complicated. It's like keeping a saltwater aquarium from going bad.
My wife's a nephrologist. I got to tell her that I'm just she'll tell me I'm a barnacle or something probably. But, I think the normals will go. We've had AI for years. Airplanes have been flying across the Atlantic on AI for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. A form of it,
EKGs
so-called autopilot,
EKGs have been read by AI for years.
Yep.
So this isn't new, but it's happening quicker than people are anticipating. A lot of the stuff that ophthalmologists do, the retinal scanning, the imaging of the retina, that will go to AI. A lot of dermatology will go to AI. And this won't affect the patient experience. It'll be good for the patient. It'll affect the economics of medicine. Yep. People who don't do procedures are going to have a harder time getting through their career. This happened to cardiothoracic surgeons with the advent of stenting. It happened to my uncle, who was a cooper who used to make barrels with steel barrels came out.
Mm-hmm.
And this has happened in other fields.
Indeed. And the horse and buggy, and we know what happened to that. So any final words? The theme of the book is, cultivating innovation and a spirit of invention. Not all our listeners to Intelligent Medicine are physicians or health professionals. How would you inspire them to enhance their level of creativity and invention in their lives and in their careers?
I think there are moments where we see things, right? I was walking on a hall at a meeting last week, and I realized the pattern in the carpet looked exactly like trabecular bone. Had a honeycomb architecture, Imagine Robin Williams, who I miss, as a medical inventor. He would have been fantastic, wouldn't he? And the way he could synapse and think really quickly and observe things.
His monologues are unbelievable.
Yeah, almost a form of Tourette's, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has moments where they think they've seen something that was creative, and sometimes they keep moving and they don't stop to think about it.
So it's a form of mindfulness, I think, because what you're describing is like paying attention to phenomena and thinking deeply about their potential relevance and relationship to something you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So if you're going to be mindful, when are you going to do it? My dog teaches me a lot. Alfie wakes me up at 6 a.m. This book exists because of Alfie. Wakes me up at 6 a.m. and I feed him and he goes pee-pee outside. He comes back in. I make a cup of coffee and I play with him for an hour. If I touch my phone, he goes away.
Oh, there you go.
So for an hour, it's just me and Alfie playing with a couple of stuffed toys. And people might call that mindfulness or meditation or whatever, but it's probably it's a really big part of my mental health. And it's a really big part of quietness, stillness, reflection for me, you know?
They say the best ideas sometimes come to you in the bathtub or the shower.
Yes, yes.
And there's actually some neuroscience that underlies that you talk about in the book, about delta waves that are associated with creativity that's been studied.
Yes. Yeah. But I think allowing ourselves to be unplugged is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Not connected to our phone, not looking at what Google is telling us they think we want to know based on what we wanted to know yesterday. Let's stay away from the phone. Stay away from the Apple Watch. I have an analog watch. I increasingly use a fountain pen and a notebook, and I jot things down because we forget what we thought was important to us. And you pick up your notebook a few weeks later and you go, oh, did I write that? Was that me? Like, this whole book is a shock to me, really. I didn't expect to be able to do this or resolve it. And, and
all the more admirable because you are engaged in a very busy career, treating innumerable patients at a busy hospital and leading a hospital team and involved in multiple companies that are advancing your devices and inventions.
But I also get to meet people like you and have conversations like this, which is fabulous. Thank you for this. Most people don't get to be heard. They don't get to be at a podium. They don't get to be listened to, right? They're in the crowd and everybody has something worth saying if we listen. And our jobs as doctors is actually to listen, right? People tell us what's wrong with them if we listen.
Well, good stuff. I'm very glad I picked up a copy of The Essence of Invention, Medicine, and the Joy of Creativity. That book is packed with historical information and also some great insights on the essence of creativity and how to cultivate it. You certainly are an exemplar of that. And, I congratulate you on a brilliant career and capping it off a wonderful book. So thanks very much for joining us, Dr. Kieran Murphy. And do send a reprint of your articles. And I'd like to find out more about your radioprotective supplement.
We'll do.
Good stuff.
I'm very grateful to you. Thanks for doing what you do.
My great
I'm
pleasure.
sure you're going to persuade tons of kids to go to medicine.
Okay, yeah, I would love to be a role model. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, and this is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything Intelligent Medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations. There were many important reasons why I started my FullScript online supplement dispensary. I wanted to offer you the same curated professional-grade supplement brands that I use, the ones I know and trust. I also wanted to ensure that they weren't counterfeit or expired. Recently, I've been hearing more and more about counterfeit or expired products purchased from online retailers. With FullScript, you can be confident your supplements are genuine and they'll arrive with optimal freshness and potency. Also, buying through FullScript offers fast, free shipping, optional refill reminders, and a highly rated mobile app. It's safe, secure, HIPAA compliant, and offers world-class support. Go to drhoffmanstore.com for more information and to start your free FullScript account. You'll get access to the supplements and features you need to help you achieve your wellness goals, including my custom targeted protocols that combine the products I recommend to address specific needs: heart health, immune support, and much more. To get started, just go to drhoffmanstore.com, drhoffmanstore.com.